Hello, Lifespan friends. All right, this week's thought of the week is something I have been having a lot of conversations with other parents about, both at the soccer field, in my office, in life in general, and that is the sun is out, the days are long, midnight sun run happened, we're all super busy, and kids aren't sleeping. And it shows, especially I spent the last 2 days watching my girls' soccer team in a camp that was 3 hours a day, and you can tell they're tired. They're exhausted, right? So I wanted to talk about sleep and kids because it's something that, especially as they get older, I don't think our culture and society is really set up to help them handle well. And especially for those who are kids that maybe always consistently have some trouble sleeping, but because summer is so busy and chaotic and there's so much going on and so many activities and so many things to do and so many late nights, that it becomes a lot more obvious that they're struggling, or they struggle even more during this time. So the first question is, how much sleep does your kid actually need each night? And specifically, I'm focusing a bit more on like school age kids and teenagers with this, A, because I have a teenager, but B, because we tend to treat teenagers and school age kids as like mini adults who end up not getting enough sleep, honestly. So test yourself. I'm about to tell you. If they're between the ages of 6 to 12, how many hours of sleep a night do you think they need? Ding ding, answer is 9 to 12. They need 9 to 12 hours of sleep. If you are a family who does athletics and activities and stuff that keeps you up late, that becomes really challenging, especially when school is in, and especially if you're a working parent and who has a job to get to and they're going to camp or whatever it is. But it's just something we want to keep in our mind because they don't nap, and they also need that much sleep because they're growing, they're changing, their hormones are doing all kinds of crazy things starting, somewhere around between 8 and 10, 12, depending on if they're a girl or a boy, and it can affect a whole lot of things. Teenagers, so those who are 13 to 18, need 8 to 10 hours at least. I would say, my son he just turned 13, but he's someone who, he does a lot better if he gets 12 hours of sleep. And during the school year, that's really hard. And when we have early morning things, that can be a challenge as well because their circadian rhythm actually shifts so that they're staying up later when they hit puberty, but they also need to sleep in longer, which is why I'm always a fan of high schools actually starting later than elementary schools. But that's how much sleep they need. So now let's talk about, what do we do if that's not happening and it's not just a life schedule thing? Like, A, we want to do our best to have our life schedules be set in a way where we can have bedtime be at a time when they can actually get that amount of sleep. We live in Alaska, I get it. The sun is always out. When my son was born, he was born in May. He had days and nights mixed up as an infant for like a month and a half, and it was really, really rough on me because it's just always daytime. So as much as you can do to help support them with darkening rooms and having blackout curtains and setting up their sleep space to be something where their system can actually settle and realize that it's nighttime, really important. Getting off screens at least 2 hours before they go to bed, also really important. Doing what you can to just help quiet the household when it's bedtime. And like preaching to the choir here, I also struggle with this at times, especially as my kids gotten older, but all these things are really important for their brain to settle down and for them to actually be able to, get the sleep they need in order to grow and make all the changes that their bodies are trying to make and still like be kind, functioning humans in the morning, right? And some of the other things are, especially if they're a kid who's always struggled with sleep. My son, we started life off pretty rough. He was in the NICU for a week, and when I finally brought him home, he literally slept on my chest for the first 3 months, like had to be literally right on my chest so he could hear my heartbeat because that was how he settled. And as he got older, we still struggled to regulate at night. He was not something he could do on his own, and he, I co-slept until he was 11. He probably will hate that I told you that, but but that's just reality. And then like a switch flipped, and he was able to do that on his own. But what I didn't understand at that point was what I could have done to help him with some of that and with the regulation, because our kids co-regulate off of us. So if we're having trouble settling down, or we're experiencing a lot of stress, or they feed off of our energy. So if we're experiencing any of that, even if you think you're hiding it or you're not all that overtly acting that way, our kids can still feel the energy coming off of us. So one of the things that we can do is learn to regulate ourselves emotionally, and if they're old enough, we can help them regulate as well. And there's a really quick technique I've taught on a few of these, but called heart focused breathing, where you just put your hand over your heart and slow your breathing down a little bit, and just breathe a little more slowly, a little more deeply than normal. So if they're really having a hard time settling down, and if you can't get them to do it, you can do it. And that might, it translates in the energy of just being around you, and that can help them settle. The other thing, that's the other piece of what I do, which is getting them adjusted and evaluated for chiropractic care. There's much more to chiropractic than just neck and back pain. We're great at that. And our focus is really on how well the nervous system is functioning and regulating, and how well messages can get from the brain to the body and the body back. And so if your child is having a hard time with that level of regulation and with just feeling safe in their own body, like being ramped up, or they can't fall asleep, or they fall asleep and wake up right away if they're alone or whatever, their system doesn't know that it's safe. And so adjustments and chiropractic care for a period of time, every kid's going to be different. The goal is going to be different in what we do, but that can help alleviate that lack of safety and ability to regulate, so that they finally sleep. I have one family that comes in, their daughter's younger. She's, a little bit under 2. She's like 20 months. But every time she gets adjusted, she takes a giant poop, and then she sleeps for 3 hours. And her mom is just like, it's the most amazing thing. And you can just see she's one of those kids that every time I adjust her, she just melts onto the table, because it just helps her whole system calm down and reset. And it's just one of the tools that they have in their tool belt now that really helps. So those are the things you can do. You can go to lifesproutcollective.com/book if you want to schedule an appointment. You can reach out to me wherever you're seeing this, or email Dr. Alex at lifesproutcollective.com, or send a text to 907-531-7450. I sometimes get that wrong, but that is correct, 7450. And we can talk about it. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. Hopefully this gives you some things to think about and some steps you can take towards helping your kid sleep better during the summer in Alaska. I know it's very hard, but we can do this. We've got this. We've got tools. We've got things we can try. So I would love to hear what works for you, and we will see you on our next Thought of the Week.